Hello again. Welcome to the latest episode of the Crypto.News show. I am your host, Tony Noto. With me is Dorian. How are you, Dorian?
Not too bad. Welcome to also our guest this week, Dr.
Yes.
Zhang from Wanchain and everything interoperability. And how are you, Dr. Zhang?
Great. Thank you for hosting this. Great to be here.
You are an esteemed member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
What is it like being a member of the EEA, as they call it for short?
Yeah. EA stands for Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, and this is a member-driven organization that builds standards for blockchains and blockchain interoperability as well. So I have been co-chairing the EA interoperability work group for a couple of years already, and we produce many good documents like decentralized security guideline, decentralized decentralization guideline, and also latestly we released DLT, decentralized ledger technology interoperability specification. And that is the goal of that specification is to be able to kind of link blockchains together with a standard specification and then standard interfaces so that you can write blockchain code at one time and then deploy it to different blockchains and they all work together. So it's a great experience over there.
Right. And I remember I came across a couple of past interviews that you did on other podcasts, and you went into detail with that on that. And it was really quite fascinating. And your expertise spans both blockchain and cognitive sciences. Yeah, how do you see cognitive modeling contributing to the future of blockchain development?
Okay, okay. These are two totally different areas,
Right.
I'll try my best to link them together. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I had the background in science education. Basically, I think 20 years ago there was a kind of crisis with science education, and then I think the report mentioned that in the USA, only 16% of the high school students would like to be engaged in STEM, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics work. So 16% is way too low.
16%, 1/6.
16% in the United States of America. Okay, and this all related to Department of Education, and then the 50% of the college students did not have basic kind of proportional reasoning even for college freshmen, and they have been research on that. These are published in review papers, and we know that there are huge crises for science education in the United States of America. So different methods have been proposed, and research have been done on misconceptions and preconceptions of students' reasoning, and also cognitive sciences as well, and how to use mental models to improve students' learning. So a lot of research have been done on that. Then you are talking about another area which is blockchain, right? So these two things are very different. And I think after teaching smart contract development in blockchain, I saw some connection already, and I also relate them. Because when you look at the smart contract, like you are kind of modeling the real world system and make them into a smart contract, and then you deploy it to the blockchain that is kind of persisted and immutable and then programmable. And
Right.
then these are kind of you can use this almost the same modeling idea to perceive the world and then to understand the world, and then also to be able to program your perceptions and then your understanding with smart contracts. So I definitely see a lot of connections over there.
Hmm. And can you talk a little bit about how you shifted from your background in STEM to Wanchain? And as I understood, it was founded in 2019. And can you talk a little bit about that and interoperability and your background with Wanchain?
Well, thank you, Dorian, for asking me this question. You are the first one asking me this question. Actually, back in 2014, company Dell Inc. become privatized. And then I worked for Dell for many years, and then we were given an opportunity to either stay with the private company Dell or leave the company. So I decided to leave the company and start an educational company, educational technology company. And this all related to mental model and then improving science education. I worked there for 3 years, the startup for 3 years, and I wrote hundreds of pages of proposals to the Department of Education, National Science Foundation to improve science education in the United States of America. And later on, I talked to politicians as well, and they told me that no, this is not something you can achieve because it's too big problem for you to solve. Okay, so at that time, my friend Jack has a company called Wanchain, and he told me that blockchain is like a once in a thousand time opportunity to kind of revolutionize the technology and change the world. And actually, that's why he introduced me to blockchain, and then I started working on blockchain kind of in Wanchain. Yeah, and that was late 2017.
Do you think that the United States education system is where it needs to be today? What needs to be improved?
Yeah, I think that's what I wrote hundreds of pages of document to that. I think first, well, if you if you have a Department of Education, you need to innovate the education technology and have the best method and kind of push this best method out, right? To innovate, right? But unfortunately, Department of Education has been working on kind of a making everybody learning the same way. I think there were two policies in No Child Left Behind, and then every child achieved. So it's not kind of having the cutting edge teaching method and teaching technology available for students. And for example, like even like labs, right? Today we should see a lot of most advanced lab in high schools, but we don't see that. A lot of education are not related to science and engineering. They are on kind of other things. So that's something that America is lacking over there. When you compare with even developing countries, they have been so much emphasis on science and technology, and that's why they produce much more engineers for those countries. So America need to catch up with that. I think during the 50s there was a Sputnik event, and then U.S. has been kind of starting to catch up with that, but.
Sputnik, you meant,
Sputnik,
right?
Yeah. That's 50s, and that's why U.S. produced a lot of great scientists during that era.
Okay. Right.
But during the 90s and 2000s, right, we knew the problem. The U.S. knew the problem, but they just did not have good methods to kind of motivate all the generation to catch up. Okay, and I think. To do, we know the problem, what to do, right? And one of these things will be as families to get more involved in education, because government take too much care of the students, and then parents will put kind of push aside. They could not even, sometimes by law, parents are not allowed to care too much about student learning. They cannot kind of get involved too much with students' life, right? And that's a separation of family and the students. That's very, very bad. So this need to be solved. And then if you look at the immigration family, like even people who has very, very kind of poor economic standard, kind of status, their children are able to catch up because of family involvement. That's one thing.
I'm curious.
Then also, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Zhang.
Yeah. So that's family involvement. And the second thing is the kind of motivate students very, very early on. Because when kids get to college, right, it's too late. When you go to college, you want to learn how to have a job, okay, and how to make money, kind of feed a family or kind of feed them.
But what role does the private sector have in this? For example, Binance, they do a lot of educational outreach in Southeast Asia and in Africa. How is Wanchain looking to bridge that divide between, let's say, the educational component of blockchain at an early stage and also throughout, for perhaps older people as well who are looking to learn about blockchain, not only young people? Is Wanchain involved in any educational components of that nature?
Well, Wanchain has not been involved in that yet, okay, because Wanchain is still small. we are developing technologies just to build infrastructure. So these are two separate things. I think Tony is asking me my background before Wanchain. So I'm actually answering Tony's question about educational system, which is before Wanchain. Wanchain is a separate company. Its goal is to build interoperability for blockchains, so link blockchain together, just like TCP/IP. So that's so far, Wanchain has not been involved in education yet. Okay, so maybe at a later time when one can grow to a certain level, then we can have more resources for
Can
doing
you
that.
explain exactly what interoperability is when it relates to crypto and blockchain?
Yeah. So if you look at the history of blockchain development, right? When Bitcoin came up, it's fully isolated. The mining node or the Bitcoin node does not talk to legacy systems. It doesn't have the TCP/IP communication to Web 2, the traditional web system, right? And that's built for security and built for isolation as well. So that's designed to be siloed. And then you have Ethereum, and then you have smart contract, which is better, but the blockchain still do not talk to blockchain. So this is like similar to PCs without internet. So interoperability is some technology to be able to connect these blockchain together so that they can talk to each other, and just like internet connecting PCs, we have an internet of blockchains talking to each other. So that is what interoperability means from our point of view.
What would be an example of a use case of interoperability?
Yeah. So there could be several use cases. Okay, for example, or actually many use cases. First is the value transfer, right? For example, if you have an asset in Bitcoin, can you kind of image the asset into Ethereum so that you can that asset having the same value can be involved in DeFi applications and also can be programmed with smart contract. So that's a value transfer. The transfer value from one blockchain to another blockchain, right? So but that transfer does not involve change of ownership. It's the same ownership, but that representation of the value is in different blockchains with the same value. So that's transfer of value, and then you can have cross-chain applications as well. So you can have you can buy asset in another blockchain from a source chain. So that's cross-chain application, and you can also have cross-chain messaging. So there are tons of use cases for that. Actually, I published a paper with EA on cross-chain use cases, and we listed like 12 use cases over there. Yeah, so there are tons of applications for that.
Are the results of all this where they need to be, or do you think we're still playing catch up? As far as interoperability, as they say it, like is it where it needs to be, or are we lagging behind in advancements in that respect?
Yeah, thank you. I think we are still lagging behind. But we have seen a lot of improvement already. When we started this one a couple of years ago, we did not even know the name, right? And we have to educate people about the use cases, because people may not know how important this is, and they don't understand interoperability, and they ask, why do we want to have interoperability? Well, I have one blockchain that is good enough, right? The cross-chain application was not well known yet. Okay, so, and then later on we found that the bridges have been built extensively, and then they have been hacked on bridges also, and then it's become too much applications without much security. So people know
Bridge, for example, yeah.
Yeah. And then we are at the stage people know this is important, but we still lacking in two major areas. One is the standards, right? We have not had a TCP/IP for blockchain yet, right? We still do not have a standard that can be used to link different blockchains, and that's one goal that we have with EEA, to build that kind of standard and components, right? And second thing is the performance is still not that well yet, because you have finality, you have different architectures, and those take time. You just cannot have like a very short time transfer of asset or messages from one blockchain to another. And that's why Vitalik was proposing that with new interoperability, we should achieve like 2-second interoperability, which means that if you want to do a cross-chain transaction, you can accomplish that in 2 seconds. I think that's a very high bar. So I'm not sure that can be achieved or not.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the you mentioned some of these bridge sort of exploits. I'm reminded of Slowmist and Ronin. When it comes to the custody of the assets, how does Wanchain operate? Is it a non-custodial? Are you guys holding the assets? How does it sort of what are the granular details in terms of the actual custody of the assets and how you're arranging them when it comes to interoperability?
Yeah, for Wanchain is a decentralized project. We don't hold the custody of the asset, right? The asset are locked by the smart contract, and these smart contracts are managed by MPC, multi-party computing. This is very, very decentralized. So anybody can stake their asset to run as a bridge operator and become part of the kind of a MPC member to kind of manage the asset transfer. So it's decentralized. So Wanchain is as a project, we don't or Wanchain don't hold any custody of the asset.
And what kind of volume are you seeing on Wanchain? How's growth
Like
and what?
yeah, yeah, I think it goes up and down. I think we publish those data in Wanchain website. You can look at it. I think it goes up and down. Yeah. But in terms
Uh,
of volume, we are not the highest one. I know that, but yeah, we publish those data in the website.
One thing we talk about on this podcast and in our coverage on crypto.news is the utility of smart contracts and why they're useful. And I'm curious, as an educator in that space, what are some of the misconceptions people have about smart contracts, whether they're your students or folks you talk about, because this is still a very new area. But obviously, it's one of the ways where people could see a real uh, use case for blockchain. So talk a little bit about that. What are some misconceptions that people have about smart contracts?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. Okay, I have been teaching smart contract for a couple of years, and also I published a book called Smart Contract Development. So it's a 450 pages book, very extensive. I think misconceptions students have. First, they would think that smart contracts are extremely complex. Okay, and nobody want to touch it, and they keep talking about blockchain, talking about smart contract, talking about programmability, but they will not touch it because they saw it's so complex. Okay, and then after you teach them, after you show them an example of writing 5 lines of code to create the ERC20 token and write 10 lines of code to create an NFT token, they thought this is very easy, so easy they could walk away and start a business themselves. Okay, and those are misconceptions. I keep telling them that if you think you can write 5 lines of code, that's because you stand on the shoulder of the giants, right? And
Right.
and initially thought they did not want to get involved with that giant, and then after you get to the stand on the shoulder of the giant, they thought they can do anything they want. So I keep telling them that misconception first, you saw it's too difficult. Misconception two, after you saw it's so easy, and then misconception three is that you do not think security is important. Okay, that's the biggest misconception. Okay, it's so easy, and
Right.
security it doesn't matter that much. I think if student come in with the mindset of security, I think he or she achieve a great goal already. I think if he or she know how to write secure smart contract, I think he can be a professional in smart contract development, and that is hardest part.
Interesting. And Dorian, I know my next question, but I'll kick the ball to you first, if you have something on
Well,
ready to
I
go.
wanted to sort of step back and take more of a macro and get your sense, Dr. Zhang, on reading the tea leaves of the current situation with the new Trump administration and where the future
Okay.
of of our industry lies.
Okay, yeah. Do you have more specific one? I think it's the things that have been changing so quickly, so much. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly no shortage of topics to go into, whether it's the tariffs with respect to mining equipment importing into the US,
Mm-hmm.
technology. I read this morning in the Financial Times that the European Union is considering tariffs on US technological services, whether that be Meta or otherwise. So I'm curious, what is your sense on the industry writ large, whether it be in America, in Asia? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What's your sort of sense on the sort of macro of everything that's happening in the industry?
Yeah, I think these 3 or 4 months have been changing so much. It looked like it's been 4 years already. So when Trump got elected in November 5th, right, and then people thought Trump is a crypto-friendly president, and then crypto kind of have a ball ride, and then yeah, the market did go up quickly for a while, and
Not
then this.
anymore.
And then he released this Trump token, and then people mindset or people began to think about it. Okay, will asset be transferred from Bitcoin and Ethereum to this kind of Bitcoin or something like that? So that's the first impact. And second impact, of course, is the tariff, right? And so for tariff, I think that I think there have been several reports on this already, saying that most of the mining machines are made in China, and then the cost of mining will increase, right? And
Right.
yeah, but I think in that regard, I do not think that will impact that much. I really do not think so, because the mining thing, at Dell we build servers, right? It's very easy to build servers, and if the price went too high, they can easily assemble the servers in the US. US can make servers quickly. I think the making chips are more difficult. Making server are easy if there's a market for that. And then the cost will be on the energy side of it. Like mainly the mining cost is on energy, not the hardware itself. Okay, and I think energy is going to go down. And then I think if the token price doesn't go down, then I think they're still profitable if you have kind of low cost energy. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you look at the decentralization of mining systems, I think to some extent it's very good, because you don't want all the mining machines to be located in one country. I used to be in China, then they transfer to USA. If there are more mining kind of machines in globally, that would be better. Okay, so in that regard, I think it won't impact that much. I do not think that will impact that much. Yeah.
Well, one of the other questions I had was with respect to, the 2008 financial crisis, which of course Bitcoin was developed in many ways as a response to. Not only that, but
Right.
the U.S. leading
Just
the
a
gold
couple of years
standard.
after.
Exactly. So, in the last week, we've had a lot of turmoil in the markets. Has the use case for Bitcoin in lieu of a financial crisis been called into question in the last week? What's your sort of sense on the sort of financial aspect and the use case of crypto with respect to a hedge against some of these some of the original ideas in which it was based? Is that use case still relevant today?
Well, I think you have that the Bitcoin is based on one assumption, that is that there's no boundary across countries, and that assumption has to be true. But with these tariffs, we really don't know, because you just mentioned that the mining machines will be kind of taxed higher, and that impact the infrastructure already, and the energy costs will be impacted as well. And then will government have more rule on the mining itself? We don't know yet. Okay, so the infrastructure itself is not kind of independent enough. Okay, so to answer your question directly, I'm not sure that Bitcoin will be independent enough to serve as a safe asset or not, because the policy may impact the mining of these Bitcoins. So that's something I do not know, because at some point the government may even kind of ban the ports of the communication. So that one, then mining cannot be done globally. So that's something I'm not sure yet. Yeah.
Do you
Is
do you
Bit
think it's a Go ahead, Dorian, sorry.
I was just going to follow up on that. Is Bitcoin a store of value? Is it digital gold? Is it money? I mean, where do you sort of see that debate uh, playing out with respect to everything that's been going on in the past week? Given that we have now the reserve, um, how do you sort of see Bitcoin relative to other cryptocurrencies with respect to some of these issues?
Yeah, I definitely see it as a store of value. Um, I definitely see that, and then to make this store of value to be secure, and then has value, you need to have that infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that infrastructure is dependent on internet, on hardware, and energy. And that's what I'm saying is the as a store of value, it has dependencies on other things, and these other things include policy as well. So that's one big aspect of it. But I do not see Bitcoin as a kind of a as a kind of money itself freely available, well, available for most of the applications. Those would be for Ethereum and Cardano, okay, ADA and other things that can be programmed easily and can be exchanged kind of with low cost. Bitcoin is kind of too heavy to be traded. Yeah, so
Too heavy to be traded. So do you think we've gotten extremely far from the original white paper, which touted how it was supposed to be independent? It's just we're so far removed from that now. It seems like how you're interpreting it. We're so far removed from that original intention of that white paper, Dr. Zhang.
well, I think uh, yeah, it's not a peer-to-peer kind of a uh, asset exchange system. It's costs too much. So I think it'll be just like it is digital gold. But doing trading, like when you are doing trading, you don't carry gold and then do trading, right? And
Right.
yeah, you carry silver probably better, right? And in other countries they even carry copper, okay, or nickel, okay. So that will be similar to Bitcoin. It's a store of value, but not for trading, the daily trading, not for that. Yeah.
So that brings us to we're going to wind down now to our final two questions. I would love to talk a little bit about Ethereum
Yeah.
and the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Well, two questions. One, are you sort of hinting that you think Ethereum will kind of win in the peer-to-peer commerce, or you mentioned Cardano as well. What are some of the coins that you sort of see uh, becoming the peer-to-peer currency that we need? And
Yeah.
also, what are some of the accomplishments that the EEA has done, and what should we look forward to?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, for Ethereum, well, that's the second largest blockchain, right? So it definitely has great potential, and also it's the first smart contract blockchain. And Ether has been kind of playing a very, very important role to make all these DeFi possible. So I definitely see opportunity over there. And then the Ethereum ecosystem has both layer one and layer two, and this Ethereum basically solve the performance issue now and transaction fee issue, solve all these issues already. Now Ethereum community is solving this interoperability issue. So I definitely see great potential for Ethereum ecosystem. And then for Cardano, Solana, and other things, okay, they are more US centered. And then it has different programming language, and it has its own kind of ecosystems. And I think these are all potential that can coexist with Ethereum blockchain, and that's why interoperability is so important. Right? And I think these are going to coexist, and that's what we believe, and that's why we have been working on interoperability. Because in the past, people thought that only one blockchain will survive, all the others will fade away eventually. But we do not think so. We think there will be hundreds or thousands of blockchains coexist, and that's why interoperability is so important. And for EA, we try to build interoperability and build standards for that, and also do outreach education for that as well. And for our group, interoperability working group, we accomplished version one, which is to be able to specify interfaces for connecting blockchains for messaging and also cross-blockchain function call. And for version 2, we try to make it chain agnostic, which means that we're going to have a chain agnostic description specification, and then every chain to be an example of that specification. So we're achieving that already. So that is specification, and we believe that it's also important to have a open source implementation for the specification. So we have a project called Smooth, SMOOT. I'm not sure you know about this smooth word or not.
I have not. No.
You
What
have
is
not?
Smoot?
Okay, we are building. Initially, we have that project named as Open Bridge, and then we submit the project to LFDT, used to be called Hyperledger, Hyperledger consortium, and then it become the Hyperledger became LFDT, Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. So we propose it as Open Bridge, and then they come back saying the Open Bridge has been used by someone else. And then we propose as a lattice, LATTICE, and they say that has been used already. And because we are a bridge project, so we just use the word smooth, SMOOT. And this is a person, a college kid in MIT. And then there are a bunch of college kids who want to measure the length of Harbor Bridge. And then this smooth person just lie down and then measure toe to head, and then go next one and measure toe to head, and use his body to measure the length of the Harbor Bridge. And then it's so funny. Then that smooth become a standard for measurement, for length measurement for bridges.
Interesting.
Yeah. And smooth become the director of NIST, National Institute of Science and Standard. Yeah. So, and then also become a chairman of ISO. So he become a standard himself. Okay. So then we picked the word smooth. Nobody knew about it, and then FDT say that's a great word. So
Yeah.
so smooth has been voted, approved to become a FDT project. So we are grouping people, kind of get people together to work on this open source project, so that we can kind of push our standard to have a good implementation, and then kind of have good adoption as well. So just for pushing the interoperability to the next level.
Fascinating. And one final question, Dr. Zhang. You've mentioned a lot about interoperability and smart contracts and Ethereum. Does Ethereum and what are some of the barriers to the next wave of adoption? Do smart contracts and all of these things with relation to interoperability, is there a UX problem? What is sort of hampering this sort of mass adoption of these ideas, DeFi in particular?
Yeah, I think the next adoption will be, first is the policy, right? They need to be clarity on policies. And second thing is the education, because that's when we talk about smart contract, right? People thought it's so complex and they don't want to touch it, right? And they need to get to that level. And third thing is that you need to have real world use cases, okay? And I have heard people talking about like real world assets, right? and then DePIN and other things, right? It has to kind of touch the masses, right? You need to have that common people to be able to use it, just like app, okay, or website. And this has to be real use cases, not just like a trading among people. That has been done already, right? You need to have touch something that they really, really care about, solve their pain point. And I have not seen a good kind of DeFi application that really solve the pain point of these the majority of the people. Okay, so I think that still need to come. Gaming, I'm not sure that will be successful or not. Or this the real world asset. Maybe real world asset is the way to go. Yeah.
You heard it here first on the Crypto.News
Yes.
show. Real world use cases, not real world assets. We need use cases and not assets. Maybe both.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, I just want to plug Dr. Weijia Zhang's book that he mentioned earlier. I just found it on Amazon.com. Blockchain and Ethereum Smart Contract Solution Development. 430 pages, you said, Dr. Zhang?
450.
450.
Yeah.
And if you ever need somebody to record the audiobook, please let me know.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. I think we will think about that. Yeah. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Dorian. This is great. It's great to talk to you. Yeah, both.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you again. Thanks a lot, Doc.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Wang.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye now.